So shortly about the program, we will have a panel discussion now with our amazing panelists. Then we will have the movie screening from Hell to Hell, and a discussion afterwards, and testimonies from people who went through the prison system in Greece. And now maybe you can shortly tell us why we are here today.
Hi everyone, I hope you are enjoying your life. I think with this war in world, no one can join his life, but we have to try to join. I'm Mustafa Ahmed from 50 Out of Many campaign. Today in anniversary day for the campaign. 1 year, last year we started trying to work against the criminalization of refugee and migrants in Greece. During this trip we found many injustice things in this country, and also not just here in Greece, in whole Europe. Today we have the two panels. The first panels now for those nice speakers. Pen, she can tell you about the first panel and what they will speak about it. After that, we have to screen the film we recorded here in Greece about the criminalization of refugee here in Greece. Then we have a panel for the testimonies for the people they got acquitted last year and this year. After that, we have party from 10 to 1 or 11. Okay, 12. We have some badar there also for the testimonies, and also the report we made it last year about what we did with the campaign. Yeah, I hope you enjoy with this event. Thank you.
You want to say it in Greek, maybe?
Υπάρχει κάποιος που θέλει μετάφραση από αγγλικά προς τα ελληνικά, να σηκώσει το χέρι του. Αγγλικά προς τα ελληνικά.
برضه يا شباب، يجي زول عايز ترجمة من عربي من انجليزي لعربي، يمشي لاخونا مهم هناك، فأي زول محتاج ترجمة يمشي له فوق.
Okay, so all of this said, we can start with our panel discussion. We would like to talk about the general topic, like the whole event today, the criminalization of migration, which is not just a Greek phenomenon, to criminalize people on the move as a tool, a political tool, where existences are being used to stop migration, and we strongly stand against this. This is why we're all here today. We will talk and exchange about ways to resist this practice, and share experiences from many different contexts and people who have experience in this fight against this system. We have here today Yambio from refugees in Libya, who has been an advocate on the human rights for people who go through the system and go through Libya, and an activist also in Libya. Then there is Eleni from Border Violence Monitoring Network, Spyros, a criminal defense lawyer who has been also in the network and supporting the network for many years. We have Androni, a researcher, independent researcher on the Greek prison system, and as well a teacher in Larissa prison. And Ειρήνη from 50 Out of Many. So thank you guys very much for being here with us today. And we will start with you, Yambio. Maybe you can tell us a bit about your actions as refugees in Libya, and how the struggle that you are seeing and the problems you are seeing is connected to the one in Greece.
Assalamu alaikum ya Jongo. Well, good evening everyone. I do not know from which dimension I should begin because the feelings that I have sitting here inside a Greek territory, a European soil, discussing the fate of human beings who've not only been wronged in the place where they were born, but also in the countries and places where they have taken refuge, and the destination which made itself to them unavoidable. Should we say it's a pity? Should we say we are enraged and that it is unacceptable, and then try to find ways to challenge it? Maybe that is the only perspective which I want to talk about. Before I go ahead to describe what refugees in Libya is and what we have been doing, I really do believe that there is one point, very outrageous enough, that you, as the Western society, the European people, have not been able to make clear to us, the refugees, the migrants, or the black people. That is to say, the Western society have done every single effort to ensure that they know who we are, that you know who we are. Everything has been written about us. Our languages have been known. The farthest place in South Sudan today, or in Sudan, in Congo, in Senegal, is well known. The food we eat, what we drink. If we ever have any problem, how do we confront it? And if we ever want to be defeated, how it should be. And all those diseases, how to deal with it. But what you have failed to acknowledge is that we are human beings. Is that when we say something is hurting us and you are the source of that pain, you do not want to recognize it. It is that when we say we are hungry and we need to share what is equally ours, you do not allow us to have that share. But it is also to a great dimension when we say you have been preaching human rights, you've been preaching democracy, you've been preaching all that you say we do not have in our countries. Can we come? Can we share it? Because this place, we cannot avoid it. From this angle, the situation in Libya, the situation in our countries of origin, is all over in the institutions that you so much respect, that you erected in their places. We speak about the United Nations. They've written extensive reports on the crimes being committed on refugees and migrants in Libya. Not to speak of the crimes and the genocide that is now happening in Sudan, which forces most of the young boys to come here. Boys in their prime age who had to leave for two fundamental reasons: that they did not want to die and they did not want to be forced to kill. Why is this so difficult to understand? Either by us as civilians or the people who have been elected to those institutions. With that being said, at Refugees in Libya, we have tried to make this much more visible by exhausting whatever effort that we have there. Because on a layer of things, we could not say we are afraid. Because in our circumstance, in our countries of origin, we have been taught by the force of circumstance not to be afraid or not to even express it. We are afraid, we flee, but to demonstrate that we are afraid, we have not have that luxury. When we arrived in Libya, we were subjected to a number of indifferences. The indifference not to be seen as equals with the possibility to live life, but also the indifference when it comes to rights. We've been outlawed, and when you are outlawed, you are punished to death, to suffering, to dehumanization, to enslavement, to torture, to an array of things that the human being cannot describe. That is what happened to us in Libya, and as a result, we've taken refuge to cross the Mediterranean in a very deadly manner. When we could not succeed in arriving to Europe, we have been captured and sent back to Libya, to the same circles of violence. That is when, in 2021, some of us, in thousands, decided to say no. If we must die, we will die for what we believe is our own, which is our dignity. We started to fight with our own bodies, with our own voices, to challenge the Libyan militias. But beyond those Libyan militias, there are the European institutions. From inside Tripoli, from inside those Libyan militias, we made it very clear that all we wanted was a true and sincere bridge that connects the Mediterranean, our country of origin, and the people here in the other side of the world, which is Europe, to understand our problems, to understand our existence, to understand the reasons why we flee. And if ever justice was to be put into question, it's something that inseparably we have to do it together with you in order to achieve it. One of these came through our understanding that our resistance had to function through a range of unity that was necessary to function as a mechanical requirement to achieve either bringing our voice together to European institutions or to the European people and to the Libyan people as a whole. With this, today, we have had to cross a number of roads. The road to bring communities as you are here to tell our stories in the format that we see fit. But we have had to go and knock on European institutions using the law that Europe has created in its place. It means doing a strategic litigation. It means confronting the policies that have done so much to not see me, to not see the black brother sitting next to you as a human being with a right that should be protected and not be given. Our campaign for the last number of years have focused on this. It has also focused on the origins of war, because to be a refugee is beyond being homeless. To be a refugee in this instance is to question every political action that has led you to that condition of being a refugee. Because being a refugee is a temporary status. It shouldn't define my life. It shouldn't define who I am. But unfortunately, to this very moment, as we are sitting here, we are being defined as refugees, and that is what puts the limit to what dimension we can either succeed in life or live the bare minimum of being happy citizens, wherever we might be. I can go on to preach and talk, but the reason I came here today is because either we are in Italy or in other European countries, or even in Libya, our struggles are much more connected to the brothers who are being wronged here in Greece by the judicial system, to the brothers who are not being seen by the Greek people, to the brothers that this soil have betrayed them, because the preaching of human rights that we have read in our history, in our books in Africa, is not what we have seen here. This betrayal, how do we confront it? How do we stay silent? What kind of a story that moves you as European citizen to say this is not acceptable, but also to look at it as a clear warning that tomorrow this will apply to you as well, that it is not only about migration. If it's a question of democracy, if it's a question of rule of law, it must not be only applied to us as Europeans, but to every single citizen, every single human being who find themselves within this territory. If so, it must be said. For now, this is what I can say.
Thank you very much. Next, we would like to ask you, Eleni, from Border Violence Monitoring Network, You have been observing what is happening in the courts, in the trials, and we would like to know a bit about what you have been observing, and also in your new report, what came through, which problems, which struggles.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Eleni, and for the last year and something, we have been monitoring criminal trials of so-called smuggling trials across Greece. I think that for the discussion we're having today, when it comes to criminalization of movement through a judicial system, we're not only talking about substantive criminal law. We're not only talking about the provisions that are in the penal code and the charges. We're also talking about how procedure is used in order to further punish and further criminalize. That is to say, how procedural rules are not being used, are omitted, in order to not give procedural safeguards, and in a way that turns the trial process as a process itself into a tool of punishment. So in theory, every defendant, every person who is in trial should have certain safeguards that award a fair trial, which is something that we're not seeing in any of these cases. These rights, for example, are the presumption of innocence, or the access to legal assistance, the time to have to prepare a defense. However, in these so-called smuggling trials, these procedures are used in the very opposite way, in order to further lead to guilty verdicts, accelerate the convictions, and legitimize the punishment. This happens through arbitrary arrests, pretrial detention, lack of access to information to defendants about the rights, no access to legal assistance or interpretation, and efforts to hush any publicity and transparency about the proceedings. In this context, we started being present in courts along with other partners from CPT to be in solidarity with defendants, and also to try and document these violations. In the last year, we monitored around 150 trials affecting around 190 people in different islands, in Lesbos, in Samos, in Crete, and in Rhodos. We saw a broad range of violation of these rights, which were appearing from the pre-trial stage until the convictions, which were repeated in all locations. So we ended up that this is a structural pattern and it's not incidental. First of all, from the pre-trial stage, we were seeing arbitrary arrests based on criteria, on arbitrary criteria related mostly of who was doing operational tasks on board, and then we're leading almost to all the cases that we saw to pre-trial detention. Pre-trial detention, according to the law, is a measure that should be used as an extraordinary measure. However, there were very few cases that we saw people not being detained before trial. Then, moving on to access to legal assistance, what we were seeing was that in most cases people were represented by state-appointed lawyers. And especially we were seeing this in Chania, in Crete. This is not a problem, this should not be a problem, but the way that the state-appointed defense system operates in Greece creates a lot of issues. For example, many lawyers were appointed on the day of the trial or the previous day, did not have access to the case files, did not have the time to speak with the defendants and organize a defense, whereas in contrary, we were seeing cases of people who had solidarity lawyers or privately appointed lawyers who had more time to devote to the defense, and in the end, more cases were ending up in acquittals. This was also happening with problems to interpretation that we were seeing a lot. For example, in Crete for a long time, there were no registered interpreters who could translate to people, and then we saw that many people were not informed about the procedures, were not informed about the different implications in the trial or what their rights were. There were cases where the judges were understanding that defendants and interpreters had could not communicate but did not do an effort to correct this, because it was very evident that they were just trying to end up with the process and lead to the convictions. Then, regarding the duration of the trial, I think that in most trials, in all the locations that we saw, trials would last a bit under 30 minutes. In opposite, we were seeing other criminal cases that might be heard the same day, for example, drug cases, that would last around an hour. So there was this effort to just get through with the cases and end up in the convictions. Then, regarding the evidence, this was something that came up in most of the trials. There were not, in many cases, defense witnesses coming, and when it came to prosecution witnesses, I think in all of the cases that we had, there were all Coast Guards. So all the witnesses that were present in court were the same people who arrested the people when they arrived. And then the court has the obligation to call witnesses who were passengers on the board and bring them to testify in court in person. But this was very rarely happening, and instead people would get very lengthy convictions based on a written statement by someone, which is a very minimal when it comes to evidence in order to lead to convictions, also with so hard sentences. Another thing that we saw, which was very evident in Crete, I think we didn't see it in other locations, was the plea deals. Plea deals are agreements between the defendant and the prosecution where the person accepts their guilt, and then they get a more favorable sentence, but then they cannot also appeal this decision. When we started monitoring in Crete, it seemed like every case was going through the plea deal system. People were not informed about what pleading guilty entails, what are the rights, how the procedure goes. Then gradually, I think when more solidarity and privately appointed lawyers started getting some acquittals and getting more cases, then some of the state lawyers stopped pushing so much people to go into the plea deal, but there was a lot of pressure. I remember in Crete, there was a lawyer who was saying, you will get 200 years in prison if you don't sign this plea deal. And then when this started slowly changing, the judges were also persisting, telling to people that since in the pre-trial stage you said that you drove, why you don't want now to make the plea deal? It is something that was very much rushed, especially in Crete. We were seeing it very often, but then maybe it started changing a bit. Also, there was an identical sentencing in a lot of plea deals, which was this 10 years imprisonment, which was imposed to almost every plea deal that was happening. But then this identical sentencing started being the same in cases that were going to hearings. So people obviously didn't want to do the plea deal because they knew that maybe if I go through a full hearing, then I'm going to get the same sentence in the end. Which I think the last thing that we witnessed was about sentencing. Obviously, most of the cases ended up in guilty verdicts, in guilty as charged verdicts. There were quite few acquittals. I think now there have started being a bit more, and the sentences were very hard. I think an average number that we got out of these 150 cases that we saw was that the average cumulative sentence was 99 years, which also comes in parallel with very high financial sentences, which were around 800,000 euros. And then in other locations, not so much in Crete, but for example in Rhodos, there was so much reluctance to accept mitigating circumstances. So defense lawyers would ask for mitigation, but then this wouldn't become accepted by the court. Just to end, because I think I've been talking long, I think that what we witnessed was that this is not incidental to one jurisdiction. This is clearly a pattern which tries to prioritize very quick and speedy convictions rather than a genuine assessment and an individualization in each case. So the trial process is not used as a process which determines whether someone is innocent or examines even the facts of a case. It is just used as a sort of administrative mechanism to confirm a guilt that is pre-assumed that exists already. I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eleni, for all this information on what exactly is happening in the court. it can be a lot to take in, especially if you hear about this for the first time. BVMN just published a written report, so if you want to go in again and read about it to get more into this, you're much welcome to do so. We will stay in the courtroom now, so more information, more now legal information about what is happening there. So Spyros, why don't you tell us a bit about your experience as a criminal defense lawyer and a bit the legal side on under which laws is all of this happening and how is this justified?
Is it okay? Yeah. I will express my thoughts in Greek language. I have shared with you my speech in English and also in Arabic. And later at the question stage, we will communicate directly. Hope next year to be able to communicate with you direct in Arabic, but that one depends on Mustafa's patience that I cannot see him right now. Καλησπέρα σας. Η αλήθεια είναι ότι δεν εμφανίζουμε συχνά σε εκδηλώσεις, αφενός γιατί υπάρχουν καλύτεροι ομιλητές, αφετέρου γιατί ο δικός μου χώρος είναι εκείνος των δικαστηρίων. Όταν όμως μου έγινε η συγκεκριμένη πρόταση να βρεθώ εδώ σήμερα με τον κόσμο της αλληλεγγύης και της προάσπισης θεμελιωδών δικαιωμάτων, ένιωσα ότι δεν υπάρχει περίπτωση να λείψω. Η κύρια υπόθεση είναι η εξής. Αν δεν ήσταν εσείς οι ομάδες της αλληλεγγύης στην Κρήτη και στο εξωτερικό, δεν θα είχαμε παράξει την ομολογία που διαπλάσαμε, δεν θα είχαμε εκδώσει τις αθωτικές αποφάσεις που εκδώσαμε και δεν θα είχαμε απαλύνει κάπως τον πόνο των φερόμενων δραστών και των συγγενών τους. Προεχόντως και κρατήστε το, δεν θα είχε αλλάξει το δημόσιο διάλογο, δεν θα είχε εισέλθει μια διαφορετική άποψη, μια ετερόδοξη άποψη για το ποιος είναι τελικά ο διακινητής. Ορισμένα προλογικά, ονομάζομαι Πανταζή Σπύρος, είμαι δικηγόρος και ασχολούμαι αποκλειστικά με την ποινική δικαιοσύνη. Στα πλαίσια αυτής μου της δραστηριότητας, αντιμετωπίζω επιμακρών το αδίκημα της διακίνησης αλλοδαπών. Το λόγο αδίκημα τυποποιείται στο άρθρο 25 του 5038 του 23, όπως αντικατέστησε το άρθρο 30 του 4251 του 14. Τιμωρείται λοιπόν η παράνομη μεταφορά από το εξωτερικό στο εσωτερικό πολιτών τρίτων χωρών χωρίς νομοποιητικά έγγραφα. Το ένομο αγαθό που προστατεύεται είναι η πολιτιακή εξουσία του κράτους. Η εξουσία δηλαδή του εκράτους να ελέγχει ποιοι εισέρχονται εντός του. Ο λόγος της αυξημένης ποινικής απαξίας της ουσανοπράξης είναι η αυξημένη πρωτοβουλία που έχει ο αλλοδαπός προκειμένου να την τελέσει, ο οποίος αντιπαρατίθεται με τους ελεκτικούς μηχανισμούς του κράτους και προσπαθεί να τους αδρανοποιήσει. Έχουν κριθεί νομολογιακά ως ενδείκτες του δόλου ο σχεδιασμός του ταξιδιού και η οργάνωση της μεταφοράς. Για να το πούμε απλά, αρκεί να βάλεις βενζίνη στη μηχανή, να κρατήσεις το τιμόνι, να έχεις το GPS, αρκεί, με συγχωρείτε γι' αυτό, να μοιράσεις κουρμάδες, αυτά μας έλεγαν στην Πύλο, και κατηγορείσαι για διακίνηση. Πρόκειται για ένα νόμο δρακόντιο, η επιβολή του οποίου επιφέρει μια τιμωρητική καταιγίδα. Δεν πρέπει να λησμονηθεί ότι εδώ υπάρχουν δύο επιβαρυντικές περιστάσεις οι οποίες είναι απολύτως συγκεκριμένες. Η μία είναι ο κίνδυνος, το κατεπάγγελμα και το κέρδος. Σε σχέση με το κατεπάγγελμα και το κέρδος, δεν έχω δει πραγματικά όλα αυτά τα χρόνια που ασχολούμαι, στην Κρήτη τουλάχιστον, έναν άνθρωπο να μου έχει πει ότι εγώ αυτό το πράγμα έβγαλα χρήματα, ή κάποιον ο οποίος ήρθε από τη Λιβύη, μετέφερε κόσμο στην Κρήτη, ξαναγύρισε πίσω και διέπραξε το ίδιο αδίκημα. Πώς συνηθίζω να λέω, η διάσκηση του λιβικού πελάγους είναι ένα ταξίδι one way. Σε σχέση τώρα με τον κίνδυνο, νομίζω ότι είναι υποτιμητικό για την νοημοσύνη μας να το αναλύσω. Υπό την έννοια ότι αυτοί οι άνθρωποι δεν ξέρουν να κολυμπούν, δεν έχουν δει ποτέ στη ζωή τους θάλασσα, δεν τους πέφτει λόγος για το πότε θα ταξιδέψουν, πολλό δε μάλλον για το με τι σκαρί θα ταξιδέψουν. Θεωρώ ότι άμα τους έδιναν ένα γιότ, βεβαίως θα έπαιρναν το γιότ για να πράξουν το αντίστοιχο ταξίδι. Όλο αυτό το διάστημα είδαμε μάνες να μας παίρνουν για τους φυλακισμένους άντρες τους μέσα στο πανικό. Είδαμε παιδιά να μας παρακαλάνε να φέρουμε τα παιδιά τους πίσω. Είδαμε μια εκτόξευση του αριθμού των φερόμενων δραστών στις ελληνικές φυλακές, ακραία, μαζική και συνεχή ποινικοποίηση. Είδαμε επίσης τις θάλασσές μας να ανθίζουν νεκρούς και το αναλυκρύωτο πένθος των συγγενών των θυμάτων και των αγνοούμενων. Και το μόνο που δεν είδαμε είναι μια σαφή μεταβολή του νομοθετικού πλαισίου επί τα βελτίο. Γιατί όμως εμείς οι συνήγοροι υπεράσπισης, όταν ασχολούμαστε με όλες αυτές τις δίκες, λέμε ότι δεν είναι δίκες, ότι δεν ανταποκρίνονται στο άρθρο 6 της ΔΑ για μια δίκαιη δικαιοκρατική δίκη? Το επίπεδο της μετάφρασης είναι χαμηλό σε όλα τα στάδια της διαδικασίας. Είναι ανεπαρκές, δεν υπάρχουν διαπιστευμένοι διερμηνείς. Οι κατηγορούμενοι δεν μπορούν να αντιμετωπίσουν τους διώκτες τους στα πλαίσια μιας ζώσας ποινικής διαδικασίας, διότι όταν φτάνουν οι υποθέσεις στο ακροατήριο, εκείνοι είτε έχουν φύγει για το εξωτερικό είτε δεν αναβρίσκονται. Παραβιάζεται επομένως το δικαίωμα της αντεξέτασης και η δίκη κατά τιμωρία. Ένα άλλο προβληματικό στοιχείο είναι ότι τα ίδια τα κατηγορητήρια από μόνα τους κατασκευάζουν ενοχή, υπό την έννοια ότι είναι τέτοια η δομή τους που ο προερχόμενος από διαφορετική χώρα επιβάτης αμέσως θεωρείται ότι είναι ο διακινητής. Στην Κρήτη εδώ και 2 χρόνια είναι μονίμως ο Σουδανός, παλαιότερα ήταν η Αιγύπτη. Στο πρόσφατο ναυάγιο της Χιού ξέραμε ότι ο διακινητής είναι ο Μαροκινός και μόνο στο άκουσμα των εθνικοτήτων της προσφυγικής λέμβου. Γινόμαστε μάρτυρες μιας πλήρους αποσάρθρωσης του κράτους δικαίου και των δικαιοκρατικών αγγίσεων. Και τι ελπίζεις εκεί? Ελπίζεις στο να έχεις μια σαφή νομική επιχειρηματολογία η οποία θα αποδομήσει το κατηγορητήριο. Ευελπιστείς στην ύπαρξη μαρτύρων υπεράσπισης οι οποίοι θα έρθουν και θα ανατρέψουν το κρατικό αφήγημα. Αλλά και βέβαιως σε δικαστές που δεν ξεχνούν ότι αφενός η επίοικια είναι ο μεγάλο ακτοτέκνο της δικαιοσύνης, αφετέρου θα ακολουθούν την αρχή της νομιμότητας και όχι της σκοπιμότητας. Επιστρέφοντας τώρα στους Σουδανούς, που είναι και το θέμα της συζήτησης και που μας απασχολούν τα τελευταία χρόνια, είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό να μην ξεχνάμε, το κρίσιμο είναι ποιοι είναι αυτοί οι άντρες. Είναι άνθρωποι που έφυγαν από το Σουδάν και από τα σκλαβοπάραζαρα της Λιβύης προκειμένου να διεκδικήσουν ένα καλύτερο μέλλον, προκειμένου να ζήσουν μια ζωή δίχως φόβο. Όπως συνηθίζω να λέω στα δικαστήρια, οι Σουδανοί δεν είναι άνθρωποι οι οποίοι χρήζουν σοφρονισμού. Είναι άνθρωποι οι οποίοι χρήζουν ψυχολογικής υποστήριξης προκειμένου να θεραπεύσουν το τραύμα του εμφυλίου. Να θυμίσω ότι η προσφυγική ιδιότητα κατά τη Σύμβαση Γενέβης, κατά το οικείο άρθρο 3 του 5038-23, αποτελεί προσωπικό λόγο απαλλαγής από την ποινή. Ο πρόσφυγας δεν θέλει να διακινήσει, θέλει να διακινηθεί, επιθυμεί και επικουρεί ο ίδιος με τις πράξεις του την αυτομεταφορά του και μόνο. Τα δικαστήριά μας, με το να μην τους απολάσουν επί αυτή τη βάση, στην πραγματικότητα αυθαιρετούν. Όταν τοποθετούμε τους Σουδανούς πίσω από τα κάγκελα, στην πραγματικότητα συμβάλλουμε στην ακύρωση του μέλλοντός τους. Διότι τους εξαλείφουμε και εκείνη την ελάχιστη συνθήκη, την ελάχιστη ελπίδα, έχοντας ξεφύγει από τα βασανιστήρια της Λιβύης, έχοντας ξεφύγει από έναν αδερφοκτόνο πόλεμο, ότι μπορούν πλέον η ζωή τους να τη ζήσουν με έναν καλύτερο τρόπο. Και γι' αυτό είναι εξαιρετικά σημαντική η σημερινή εκδήλωση, γιατί είναι η πρώτη φορά που μιλάνε τα θύματα, οι αθωθέντες, οι αποφυλακισθέντες, όλοι όσοι βίωσαν τον εξαναγκασμό και τον αποκλεισμό, έχουν τον απόλυτο σεβασμό, τον απόλυτο θεβασμό μας και είναι πραγματικοί πρωταγωνιστές της σημερινής βραδιάς. Αργά ή γρήγορα θα δικαιωθούν οι Σουδανοί πρόσφυγες, όπως δικαιώθηκαν οι επιζώντες του Φαρμακονησίου, όπως δικαιώθηκαν οι επιζώντες της Πύλου. Για την ακρίβεια, έχουν δικαιωθεί προς το παρόν οι 9 της Πύλου. Οι επιζώντες θα δικαιωθούν σε δεύτερο χρόνο, αλλά θα δικαιωθούν και αυτοί. Και ευχαριστώ τις συναδέλφους της Γενναίας, οι οποίες παρεστάθησαν σε εκείνο το δικαστήριο και είναι και εδώ ανάμεσά μας και σήμερα μας κάνουν την τιμή. Ο νομικός μας όμως πολιτισμός θα έχει χάσει πολλά. Και επανέρχομαι σε αυτό που πρωταρχικά έθεσα. Ποιος είναι τελικά ο διακινητής? Είναι αυτός που μένει πίσω στη Σμύρνη, στην Κωνσταντινούπολη, στη Λιβύη, στην Τρίπολη και πλουτίζει. Δεν είναι ο κατετρεγμένος, δεν είναι ο καταπιεσμένος, δεν είναι ο πρόσφυγας, δεν είναι ο φτωχός. Και σίγουρα δεν είναι ο Ακέ Καλήφα, υπόθεση του οποίου άγεται συντόμως ενώπιον του μονομελούς εφετείου κακουργημάτων Χανίων. Είναι εικονιζόμενος, σας τον επιδεικνύω. Και αυτή εδώ είναι η Λιβύη, η ασφαλής χώρα, ένας παράδεισος βασανιστήριων. Σας ευχαριστώ.
Thank you very much, Spyros, for this speech. and also raising the question of who are we even criminalizing, like this narrative on blaming traffickers or smugglers for these crimes. It's a narrative that is very present in all the European countries, and it needs to be demolished because it's just total bullshit. So thank you for also talking about this. And now we want to move from the courts to the prisons. What is happening in the prison, and how are people being treated? Therefore, we would like to ask Antigone, you, to talk about your experiences, what you see in the prisons as a teacher, but also as a researcher.
Thank you very much for inviting me. The work you've been doing is really astonishing. I won't be talking so much as an educator because there are people among us that work as we speak with people from Sudan. I'm mostly employed in prisons for adults, so I will talk as a researcher and a secretary of the Greek branch of the European Prison Education Association. We are in contact with all schools in Greece. I will try to briefly explain that what is happening to Sudanese boys is not incidental, it is systematic, and if it weren't for your efforts to bring this issue to light, it will remain completely invisible. I will also propose that we urgently need to join forces to stop this from progressing. With a growing prison population and plans for 8 new prisons in the coming years, things are not going to improve. They're going to get even worse. If we continue to treat prison, many of us Greeks do, as a default solution instead of questioning the role it plays. Think about it. We often call for justice, meaning prison, without having any real idea of how prison actually works. And that is no accident. As a researcher, I can tell you, beyond any doubt, we do not have data about anything. We have no idea who these people are. We have no idea what they need, what their families are going through, what happens in court. If it wasn't for your great efforts, we would have no idea. And obviously, most of us have no idea about what goes on beyond the prison gate. The people who live this reality firsthand, as educators, as therapists, as workers inside the prison, cannot speak because they are afraid to do so. Because when we are inside the prison has the upper hand. So we often talk about institutions lacking transparency in Greece, but detention facilities under the excuse of security are completely opaque. And human lives often depend on a power struggle, on the mood of a chief guard. Let me be concrete. Across Greece, we are talking about 500 young people from Sudan, approximately, in our prisons. In some places, they are a huge part of the prison population. In Hania, for example, more than 1/3 of the school population are Sudanese. 2 out of 5 classes are full of young people from Sudan. I've been there a couple of months ago. I've seen them. I got to see them for a bit. In Avlona Prison School, dozens of young people are enrolled in primary and secondary education. Kasaveti, Avolos, Koridalos, the numbers add up. On paper, all these people have access to education, activities for the free time, support, but only on paper. Because in reality, let me be as concrete as I can. There are not enough classrooms in the schools. There are schools with 1 or 2 classrooms, or maybe 3 classrooms, but then the prison says, I need one of them to make more cells, then they take the classroom. What is the result? Students are officially enrolled. We know that they are enrolled as students, but there is no space for them to attend on a daily basis. There is no space for them to take part in the activities offered in the school. In at least 2 cases that I know personally, schools have twice as many students enrolled as they can accommodate on a daily basis. This in practice means that school they come in rotation, a few hours per day, a few days per week, and this is very serious in prison because for many prisoners, school is potentially the only place that they have in order to have some go out of the prison routine. Then there is severe understaffing in Greek prisons. In some facilities, only 1 or 2 psychologists need to deal with 600 or 500 or even 700 people. This is the place in Larissa where I work. In Kassavetia, for example, where minors are being kept, along with young prisoners, there are 3 social workers and only 1 psychologist that visits the prison every 10 days. So when a crisis happens, and obviously crises happen to people who are in this position, like they lose someone, a member of their family. 2 weeks ago, a student learned that members of the family have been killed by phone. Only the school principal was there and he had to comfort the kid. No one was there inside prison to deal with this sort of stuff. Teachers are taking on the roles of psychologists, social workers. For many young people, they are the only ones who can support them inside. School principals even look for small meals because, in prison, food is very insufficient. It is very, very expensive in some cases to obtain, and they try to find some food from churches, from fast food restaurants like Grigoris or local municipalities. As educators, we definitely do not have the knowledge or the necessary resources to help. And many, many people say that we should not try to do that. We should mind our own business. But many of us don't believe that we can teach while ignoring what our students are going through outside the classroom. Daily life in prison is marked by deprivation. We cannot pretend to not see what we see. And the principals say they see people from Sudan all the time, young kids coming in short sleeve shirts and flip-flops in the winter. We often find ourselves searching for something as basic as the Holy Bible in Arabic, books, or even guidance on the most basic prisoners' rights. The authorities claim this information is available, but it is always actually in languages that most detainees do not understand. It is definitely not in Arabic, Farsi, stuff like that. Many teachers feel it is unethical to discuss human rights in the classroom while completely ignoring the system that systematically violates them. Finally, when people are released, many of us, I bet, know this firsthand, they would walk out of prison with nothing if it weren't for you all who are there for them. No money, no phone, no support. They would just sit on the streets alone. Yesterday, a student of mine called me from Corinthos. He's not Sudanese, but he experiences after being released, after 6 years in prison, what many young boys might if we don't demand support. At the end, he said, of our phone, I wish I could go back to prison. I don't think I will survive 18 months in the camp. At the same time, I want to share, and I'm finishing, I'm wrapping up, I want to share what all the teachers and principals I have talked to shared with me. The Sudanese boys are exceptional students. They show consistency, they show respect, they show love for knowledge, and they show strength under conditions most of us cannot imagine. A few months ago, I visited the school in Chania prison, as I said before. After hearing their stories about the routes that brought them there from Libya, I asked one of the boys in the break what they expect from us. What can we do for them? The only thing that he said was, keep telling people about us. Do not forget. So this is what I'm trying to do here, not speak for them, but trying to not be silent about them. I think we should not accept a system where transparency ends at the prison gate. This is what happens in Greece, definitely. We should not accept a system where basic rights exist only on paper and survival depends on chance. And finally, please allow me, with all due respect, to share one last thought. I totally understand why boys from Sudan often shout out that they do not deserve prison because they are not criminals. Because obviously they are not criminals. And they are young people deserving our respect and protection. And it is a shame that they need to explain it again and again. But at the same time, let me share that no human being deserves prison as it is. It would be a shame to not remember the rest of our students today in this great gathering that we are here. Greece is repeatedly condemned by the European Court of Human Rights for inhuman and degrading detention conditions, while at the same time, as a society, we are increasingly turning to imprisonment as a solution to our most serious problems. Under these circumstances, I think, I feel, and I fear that no community, no matter how committed it is to this cause, can stand alone against the growing criminalization of migration and the dehumanization of the other, whoever that other might be, a migrant, a person struggling with addiction, someone living in poverty, or a child who responds to abuse with abuse. So I'm here today to express our deepest respect for your struggle and to encourage all of us to please join forces. Thank you.
Thank you very much for explaining again and again why the prison system has to be abolished, and yes, thank you for sharing exactly what it means. Ειρήνη, we move on to you. Why don't you tell us a bit about 50 out of many and what you have been observing, which struggles and problems you have been observing in the last year or years?
So, as Mustafa said, it's 1 year since we started to see what is happening about the criminalization of migration. And what we are witnessing is not just injustice, it's a crime and torture for the people who are in prison and for the families. They are destroying lives. They are kidnapping people without letting them know why. They are coming to find safety. There is no safe way. Everybody knows that it is 170 miles, 200 from Libya to Greece. No smuggler will be inside. And when the people arrive to seek safety, they take them and put them in prison. Sometimes what they are witnessing, even they arrest the husband and they don't even say to the wife that they arrested. There was a woman that 3 months she didn't know that her husband was arrested. She didn't know where he was. And he found her from Volos prison in the camp and contacted her after 3 months. We are talking about really serious violations of human rights. I will start first with a name that it started to be like 50 out of many, because we knew that more than 2,500 migrants are in prison because of this reason. And 1 year ago, we heard that 50 Sudanese boys were in Avlona prison and needed shoes and telephone cards. And we knew that they had trials because of smuggling. So we tried to collect the things, and we thought that it is easy to go from the prison and give the things. But it's not easy at all. When we are talking about isolation and of the system of the prisons, the walls are really big, and you cannot just bring things. So then we were trying to connect with the teachers, find a way to give things. The system doesn't give even soaps, but they don't let the Solidarity people give the things also. Then we started to go to the trials. We knew about one case in June with a private lawyer, so we went in Chania, in the court, and what we saw, it was really shocking. It was 15 people, and we didn't see any trial. There was no trial. It was the 14 people. They stood up with a lawyer and they went inside another room. And we didn't know what was happening. I mean, why they went inside the room. They didn't have an apology. They didn't have a hearing. And then we learned about the plea deals. What is the plea deals? That they were saying, like, because you are accused and now it's really serious, you will get 200 years, 25 of imprisonment. Then you need to, if you sign, if you go to the prosecutor, to the Εισαγγελέα, and he or she accepts it, then maybe it will go to 10 years. So it was basically a blackmail. And the most shocking thing was that when we came back in Athens after 1 month, a person, a Sudanese, he came and he told us that he made a plea deal, but he didn't know that he made a plea deal. He didn't know that plea deal means that I am accused, I am guilty. I am saying that I am guilty. I cannot have an appeal court. I cannot have another court. It will be a problem with my asylum procedure. So then we really understood that this is really terrifying, that there is no awareness about the basic rights, what is happening, about the procedure. The translator had handicaps, like the translator who was doing that was another of the defendants, and still the procedure is still the same. There are no plea deals now, so not so many. But last week what we saw in Chania was most of the people saying that they came from Libya because they had to fight safety. They came from Sudan, then in Libya, and why you drove the boat was the question, or why you did something more active in the boat, because of torture, because of threat. And the court said, okay, we cannot believe it. We don't have any proof. And the person said, yes, I have. And he wanted to show the marks. And he said, I don't know from when it is. So this is humiliating the people and what is happening, and they know what is happening. They know what is happening in Libya. That's the thing, they know. But they're pretending that they don't know. So last year, we tried to be in contact with the people, trying to find their names, being in contact with the families, because we knew that they are not in contact with the families, and see what they really need, what supporting while in detention, in trials, and after release. So from that moment, we are going to the trials and coming in contact with the people in prison. What they need is a lawyer. Because going into the court and not having a lawyer and just a stranger coming 5 minutes before the trial without even knowing your name and taking a packet of the evidence or whatever, going into a corner, and to the same day of the court, I would like to explain this, there is one translator, and there are many defendants. One day maybe there will be 38. And maybe 35, they will have a state-appointed lawyer 5 minutes before the hearing. This means that the lawyer needs to study the case, and with which translator, because that moment the translator is translating for the hearing, so it is a chaos. We don't even understand what is happening in the court. Not even the lawyers understand what is happening. I mean, it's so confusing, and nobody's explaining the procedure. It's like, I invite you all, go to Chania court to see how human rights violations are happening. It is open for the public, and it makes a difference if people go there. What else people are asking in prison is that the basic human rights, like to have soap, like they are calling, because they don't have soap, shoes, clothes, contact with the families. They don't have contact with Sudan, so they cannot connect with their families to see what is happening. Witness to come and justify, because in all the cases that we have seen in Chania, there was never a witness coming as to accuse them, like it is only the paper. It's 4 witnesses in the paper that said that you drove the boat. And this is enough for this person to go into prison for 25 years or for 10 years. This is a disgrace. So what they're asking is for help, for some of their witnesses to go and say what happened. That's why it's important to go and monitor the procedures and see what is happening there. Raising awareness and keep on talking what is happening, because as we read in every week in the Greek media, is like A boat arrived from Libya in Crete with 45 people, and the 2 smugglers were inside, 17 and 19 from Sudan. This is the information that the Greek society takes. So raising awareness and talking about this makes a big, big difference. Now the number, if we say the number now, our name now would be 500 out of many. We knew about 50, but now that we are in contact with the different prisons, we know that it is more than 500 Sudanese now in the Greek prisons. When the boat arrives, they put them in different prisons around Greece. So there are 3 basically prisons that it is for young people, Avlona, Kassavetia, and Volos, that it is around 200 people who are under 21 years old. Most of them, they are minors, and they cannot prove it. So we are asking for all the organizations that are protecting the children's rights to do something about this, because there is a crime happening in Chania, and we have like a number of I'll find it now. That they say that it is under 18, and it is 22 boys in 5 hearings that we monitored in Chania. So we'll talk a little bit more about this because it's really important. So when they arrive, they make the wrist examination, an examination like to see what age they have. And this wrist examination, it's not accurate. It has a difference of maybe 2 years. So what we witness in the court is a boy to say, the judge to ask, how old are you? Saying 16, even to bring birth certificate from Sudan, that it is rejected, and we are wondering why. And the court saying, no, because you had the wrist examination, it shows that you are 19. So proceeding with the hearing as being an adult. This I have to say now.
Thank you very much, Ειρήνη. I forgot to say in the beginning that whenever any one of you panelists would like to comment on something or want to share something that comes up, please feel free to say so. I will also, because some more people joined, just to remind that we have translation. We have Arabic in the back around Momo. Maybe you can wink. And we have also English to Greek. Where are you? Here, if somebody needs it. Okay. Yes, maybe we can talk a bit about the ways to resist now. Also, maybe we can begin with you, Yambio, but everyone can share their thoughts about it after each other. What are ways to fight the system? How can we empower each other? And what do we need in the future to fight the system, to go against it? And maybe also specifically for you, Yambio, what do you expect maybe also from Greek society, from European society to do to fight the system?
Well, talking about expectation, I think in my former speeches, I did indicate that it is now upon you as European citizens, the Greek society, to start questioning what is really happening. How does it affect you indirectly, or if you don't know about it? I am in one way a realist, but I'm also a community advocate, and I try to build things. I try to do things radically, which means how do we move from here? We've seen the campaigns that have been done so far, 5th out of many. They have had to use what was available at their disposal, which means to collect the small tools, that the boys needed. That is a step that has brought us here today. But us as European citizens, I do believe that we can do more. Because first and foremost, we should understand what the Greek judicial system and the government is doing right now is the law of the jungle, where the powerful eats the weak. And this law of the jungle is very animalistic. Where I grow up in those surroundings, you see the beast, you see the lions chasing the antelopes, you see the hyena chasing all these small animals that are very weak to run for their lives. This is exactly what the Greek authority is doing right now. And this should immediately tell us that it is unacceptable, because you are not animals. We are not other animals. When we live in this society, this should be the difference between the morals that we have and the principles when it comes to the rule of law. It is nowhere even to the rule of law where individuals are sanctioned to death in this way. Death for us, it's not just being shot in the head, it's not just being hanged by the rope, but the everyday throes that these people have to live. 200 years in prison, 99 years in prison. What does it mean? What is life in that itself? When we don't question these few things, I don't believe we will be able to make a concrete approach in which the Greek authorities and the judicial system will understand that we categorically reject the approach that they are doing. Now, I'm much more in favor of anyone amongst you here who want to think on the radical and the most easiest thing to do. We all have to eat food. Why don't we do a hunger strike? That is one. If you cannot do it, I have been hungry before. I have been starved. I have been put to really starve against my will, but I'm willing to do it to bring attention to the Greek authorities, to tell them that we want these people to immediately be released. But there is also another approach that we could take. All of us here, those who are willing, we could go to Strasbourg in France, to the European Court of Human Rights, not to necessarily open a case because we cannot afford to wait for another 5 years where the court in Strasbourg will start to investigate the Greek judicial process. We can do a permanent sit-in there. I've done it in Tripoli where every day my colleagues were being shot at. I did it for 100 days with 5,000 people. Even if we are 10, I'm willing to let go of everything that is right now in my life to do it in France. And the other things we could do is to approach whatever European, the Greek institutions are based. Either we start it here in Greece, or we can start it in European countries where the Greek embassies are. We can do a number of things that could really prove useful. But again, our outrage as the Greek citizens should start to show from these small things which we feel does not concern us. Thank you so much.
Maybe there are also some questions from the audience to one of our panelists.
I think it's a matter of information being exposed, what is actually happening in these prisons. And I think there is light in the end of the tunnel, that I think we should utilize the tools that are in our disposal to spread the word, and to not just spread the word, but to show the images, interview the people that went through these courts, these unjust courts. And that way there's a chance to showcase this to the common person, to the everyday Greek, that is either a baker, a lawyer, a carpenter. These to show the average person that they're people that are not that different from you, that have these dreams, ambitions, and goals in life. They're going through an unfair trial and are fleeing from conditions that is like beyond our imagination. So what we see globally, let's in Palestine, or any conflict that is happening in the world, we've been exposed to this through social media. That social media showed us the gruesome and the cruel images of the carnage of human destruction, of how cruel people can be. And I think technology, even though it has been used for the past century for evil, I think on the other side, it can be used for good. And I think it's up to us as people to be responsible and to have a clear goal and conviction to show light to the darkness that is surrounding us.
Thank you very much. A question? Yes, maybe you have to. You can also tell me, and it's not working this way.
Okay, hi. I'm a journalist, and I do nothing more. Sorry, is this? So, here? Okay. Okay, so what you say, bring photos and material, first of all, it's extremely difficult. And secondly, journalists who do this work, like me, there are some others, we get criminalized because we speak this truth to power and we show a lot of what you say. I mean, I asked Mitsotakis one, when at last will you stop lying about the pushbacks? And I got 2 court cases. And it's what you say, the thing of criminalization is, they know I will not be convicted, but the punishment is the duration of the procedure, the mental and financial exhaustion, and this idea that you live with a sword of Damocles above your head. So I think we have to do much more than what you suggest, because what you suggest is not working. And may I point out that we are now living in a Europe that is supporting and arming Israel, committing a genocide, which is live streaming on camera. So what if we can show what's happening in Libya? What if we can show what's happening in Sudan? We all know it. What if we can show what happens in Greek prisons? I think we should ask ourselves, what can we do to get the masses from not only solve the ignorance because of a lack of formation, but what to do about the indifference. I think we have already landed in an Orwellian dystopia. And from 2015, when 1 million Syrians came, mainly through Lesbos, we've got accustomed to dead kids on beaches. You remember the little boy who was found on a Turkish beach? At the time, this was September 2015, the whole world was shocked. Millions of donations flooded to NGOs. Foreigners from all over the world came to Lesbos to help. And now they find boats with corpses that have been dead for many days, children dead in the sea and on islands over time. Nobody notices it anymore. So I think to consolidate, but I don't know, my question is, what can we do? Because we're all fighting and it doesn't work. So personally, I have no more hope and I'm totally desperate. Please help me to give some solution because I don't know anymore.
Okay, what can we do? Ειρήνη, what can we do?
Well, I definitely believe keep on talking and connecting That makes a difference, because if we think that nothing will change, then it is a trap that we will just be sucked into this helplessness. So no, it makes a difference. It makes a difference to talk about it, for this to go to the trials and to see other ways, as David said before, like to explore new ways, like in everyday life or together as community. So that's the thing, how we can explore other ways. Yeah. Yeah. This is the...
A question?
Okay, there is a small, short comment, and a question that follows. First of all, many thanks for those really encouraging and powerful presentations that all of you held. Of course, it does make a difference that you exist. Yeah, and of course, it does make a difference that so many people are here at the moment and are really interested, and that so many of the several people among the many that are here, they're by themselves active, even though they don't make part of this panel in various ways. We might be slower in a way of operating because we've got to, meanwhile, find the means to survive, and it's not our job, let's say, to our professional occupation, you know, to do what we are doing. We're doing it all because we believe in it, whereas the people in power, they get paid to do the harm, and this is their sole aim in life, let's say. So I would say that this is a field of it's the next stage, in my view, of the application of death politics, which started already with several experimentations since the so-called refugee crisis since 2015, with the proclamation of this safe third countries, the agreement between Greece and Turkey and so on and so forth. Okay, this is my interpretation, but it certainly is going on a higher pista, how to say, you know, promoting this issue to normalize death with more rigidity and more intensity. Coming now to the real question towards Ειρήνη, I would like to ask, Ειρήνη, you knowing the local culture, which is very strongly patriarchic and obviously also nationalist in many aspects on Crete, or chauvinist, let's say, in many respects, do you think that those judges involved in the trials, the attorneys, they are samples of, let's say, like a more local symptom of being super nationalist or so? Or is there, do you think that there is a direct connection of them with directives which they take from the central government to be behaving like this? Do they have, are they all sold out? Do they have a sold out conscience? Or is it a phenomenon that you think is, you know, more stressed, more accentuated on Crete? What is happening? These mock trials that you described.
Well, there is a big difference from Chania and Iraklio, so there is not the same in Chania and Iraklio. For example, there are more acquittals happening in Iraklio than in Chania, so we don't know exactly why and what is happening. Maybe someone of a lawyer can answer. I will share the number of the hearings that we had in Chania. It was 19, and from the 285 defendants, 13 were acquitted. This is like a really small number. And what we see is like 3 specific judges that they take these hearings. So for sure there are orders, there is something systematic that is happening. They don't even listen, they don't even listen the hearing. It lasts like 5 minutes. When in Heraklion we saw that it was like 20 or 30 minutes. In Chania it is usually 5 minutes. With 1 minute it is the apology. Like in 1 minute to say why you left through Sudan, in Libya, and what happened in the boat. So something is happening like fast track, and they have many, many more cases. Like it was maybe around 20 cases every hearing. So yes, I don't know if.
To be honest, I don't know which is the difference between Heraklion and Chania. In Heraklion there are better outcomes. However, as regards the question what we have to do, what we can do, in my opinion, the best picture tonight is to see justice with his son. I prefer to see him released, not behind the bars. We prefer to have in our lives pictures like this, pictures with justice, pictures with his son. The most bad picture for me was when I came in Avlona and started to meet Sudanese guys. It was a tragedy because all of them, they had many questions. They didn't know why they were behind the bars. They told me that we are not criminals. If I was a criminal, I was back in Sudan and I will fight with each other. I don't know why I'm here. I'm desperate. This picture of desperation, we'll try to fix it. It's very difficult. I believe that the game is unfair, but we have to persist, we have to resist, we have to try to make all these people to feel better.
Well, I just want to add briefly to the journalist who is very hopeless. I want to see you as a human being. I will not see you in the lenses of the indifference which exists in my life and yours as an African, a black person, and a European. And within this, there are those almost invisible powers which we believe is controlling our societies and our future in a way. But to your generation and to your field of expertise, and to my generation right now, Generation Z, as they call it, I do believe that we cannot afford to be hopeless. Because what we are fighting for is justice. When we fight for justice and we ever develop the grimmest portion of being hopeless, we are losing. It is that system which is winning. But for us to understand who this system and this power are, we should understand what power do we have as individuals and what power do we have as collectives. I did mention earlier that we need to capitalize on our unit. We need to capitalize on building coalitions to help us to function as the mechanical requirement for success, to succeed in achieving a little bit of the equality that we want. And it's not about what the other lady mentioned, that people have done a number of things and people are being numbed to death in the Mediterranean, to people who've been dead for several days in boats and they're still not reacting. I do believe it's coming back to the indifference that I just mentioned, which exists between the Western society and the African people. And this is racism. Racism exists, but today racism once and more has been capitalized on. The people with the power, who we elect, who we give our votes, are capitalizing on it to make us numb and to make us see those brothers as the problem. But when we dig upon it, as I said again, we need to touch about the political roots. What is happening in Sudan? If you ask the least educated Sudanese person today, they will tell you, yes, the gunman is my own. He's from Darfur, he's been armed to teeth, and he's shooting me. Must I kill him to achieve my peace, my security, my democracy? That is automatically by default, yes. But to understand who is behind that gunman and who is supplied that gunman with the strongest weapon, which is ideology, the ideology to see his neighbor as a threat to his own democracy. It is here the West. It's those companies. It is those multinationals. It's those corporations. If we don't understand this and to build our foundation of unity based on this understanding, I don't think we are going to achieve anything anywhere. We will continue to be hopeless, which we do not deserve and we cannot afford. We can do more. Long live to the struggle and long live to freedom that we all deserve.
Thank you very much. I think this was the perfect ending for this panel discussion. We thank every one of you very much for coming today, and we will also all stay around, so if there are open questions, this event is also for talking and exchanging and raising awareness, so everyone will be around, and I'm sure up for questions and discussions. Also now it's dark, so we can also watch the documentary. Maybe we do a short break, huh? We take a short break, get some nice t-shirts at the bazaar, some food. Thank you very much. The Book of Shame, it's also available at the bazaar. Yeah, we take a short break, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then we gather again for the movie screening, which is going to be very interesting, so please stay.